Hey everybody, thanks for tuning back into Tuesday Chat with OTRAMM. And again, no real plans, just let me know what you want to talk about. And let me know that you can hear me and see me. Trying to think if there's anything cool going on at the shop right now. And I don't think there is. And thanks, David. Glad I'm coming through well. I can never tell on this end because I can't hear myself in the headphones when I wear them. We're still working on the 80 series rear bumper, plugging away on that, getting started on putting the 3FE drivetrain together for the FJ40. I should have the bell housing and flywheel this weekend, thanks to Schmuckster, who's bringing it down from Kena. But yeah, other than that, just standard cruiser stuff coming through the shop. Haven't got anything fancy tool-wise or project-wise in the last couple of weeks. So yeah, not a whole lot new going on. I started in on writing the 80 series buyer baselining and modification guide that I'm probably going to end up doing as an ebook. I got maybe a third of the way through the buyer guide section of it over the weekend writing. I still got to put pictures in and do all that. But it's kind of fun. And it'll probably take me forever, and 80 series probably won't be a thing by the time I get done writing it, but we'll see how it goes. And if anybody has any suggestions for what should be in an 80 series buyer's guide, baselining guide, modification guide, shoot me a note because I'm sure I'm going to forget something. Even as I've been outlining, I keep going back and having to add stuff. As I start writing one section, it's like, oh, I totally forgot to add this for this section. So it's probably going to be a long labor of love work in progress. And for new folks tuning in, and this one's your first live chat, please remember to subscribe below. And if you want to get updated on the latest videos when they come out, and notifications of when the chats are coming up, if you hit the little notification bell, it'll send you reminders whenever we post something new. And if you really dig the videos, there's a Patreon link in the description. We'd appreciate any support that you'd like to throw our way. Always looking to upgrade our camera stuff and kind of help make up for the time it takes out of the day of working to shoot the how-to videos. But, either way, we'll keep making videos because I like making them. But yeah, just let me know what you guys want to talk about this evening, and I'm here to answer questions. And I feel like I'm talking funny this evening. I bit my lip earlier, and it's all swollen and feels funny. Trying to think. And every week, I tell myself that I'm going to write an outline and I'm going to have a plan of things to talk about to fill dead spots until people tune in. And every week it comes down to Tuesday, and I still haven't done it. So yeah, I definitely need to start doing notes and outlines for these so that I have filler topics. I think we've got anything cool coming up in on the horizon. I know we've got a 200 series coming in for big brake kit and an auxiliary fuel tank. That's probably in the next couple of weeks. So we'll try to shoot a video on that. See if I can look on the calendar, see when that's coming in. And we're doing another Dakota Digital dash install in a 40 series. I'll probably get started on that maybe tomorrow, probably Thursday. We've been waiting on it to come in. The guy custom ordered some special features on it to work. He's got a non-US diesel in his cruiser. So that'll be an interesting one to do the install on. I think. No, the auxiliary fuel tank's not for like 2 more weeks. I thought it was sooner than that. So David says his brakes are terrible and it's pulling hard to the left. So if it's pulling hard to the left, I've always got to think about this. Your left front caliper is probably stuck on. So it's constantly locking that side and making you veer that direction. We've had really good luck with the Napa Eclipse calipers, the Remans. So far, haven't had an issue with them. We've been using them 6 or 7 years now. So I like them for calipers. And we've been using Terrain Tamer and EBC lately for rotors and pads. I really like the stopping power on the Terrain Tamers, but they seem to wear pads pretty quickly, which, is the trade-off you're going to get. It's the trade-off you're going to get for the extra braking is softer pads. If it's only veering when braking, then your right caliper might be stuck in the non-apply position, like it's stuck open. And what we usually do is we'll take them for a couple of laps, get the brakes hot, and then we've got a thermal imaging camera, and we'll compare brake temperatures from all 4 wheels. If you've got a hot or a cold one that's way out of spec with the others, you know where your problem is. But yeah, really like the stopping power of the Terrain Tamer stuff, but it has a higher pad wear rate. We've tried the EBCs on a couple of 80s, but I haven't had them running long enough to know anything about long-term wear. I think the one set's on my brother's truck, and we did it a couple of months ago, but he hasn't really been driving it. And then we've got a customer here in town. We did it on his maybe a month ago, but that's not really long enough to tell how they're going to hold up. And initial impressions, the EBCs also feel good stopping. They don't feel quite as grippy as the Terrain Tamers, but that's just seat of the pants. So I don't have any actual scientific data to back that up. I was going to ask how your truck's doing. We had 180 that one of the valves in the ABS module was sticky, and it was giving it a weird brake pull. And it may actually still be giving it a weird brake pull because we haven't seen that truck again. But that truck sat for quite a long time without being driven, so I would guess that's why it stuck. but usually it's a sticky caliper when you've got pull. And as far as when can you come in, that is a really good question. Right now, I think we're booked until mid-December. But there might be slots open for smaller jobs before that. Easiest way would be to shoot us an email, and then Tim, the new office guy, will see it and put you on the list and sort you into the schedule where it'll fit. Yeah, if it had been sitting parked, you could have had one get rusty in the bore and stick. I wouldn't think they would stick after that short a time sitting, but possibly. Yeah, we have been swamped. We were busy through the summer. Like the rear bumper that I'm working on now was originally scheduled in April, and we've just been so busy. I'd been pushing it off, and finally we just had to get it, get it done, get it in. But yeah, we've just been swamped, and we should have slowed down at the beginning of fall, but we haven't hit the slowdown yet. So I'm hoping the race team ends up finding new space, sooner than the lease is up, so that we can take over the other half of the shop sooner than later. Get more space, get another lift in, so we're not tied down to just the two bays. Like rear airbags in the springs, not quite as easy as with an 80. You've got to mess with opening the KDSS valves, assuming the truck's got KDSS. You got to open the valves in order to get the suspension to droop out enough to get the springs out. And it can be a real pain getting the KDSS sway bars and everything lined back up. Getting everything lined back up after you've put everything back together. And I don't know how well airbags would work with that setup, because the KDSS cross feeds to the front suspension, like the front sway bar. And I don't know, like if you add extra load capacity with the airbags, you may have an issue with having to reset the centering on the KDSS every time you make the bags go up and down. That's not something we've played with yet. One of the local guys here in town just did it on his, but I don't know how it turned out. Yeah, the KDSS is fun. We did suspension lift on a 200 last week, and it took me 4 or 5 hours to get the KDSS valves open, cleaning out the threads and lubing them and tapping them and wire wheeling them. We still ended up breaking every 5mm hex socket we had in the shop, and I ended up welding nuts on to the adjusters to get them to break free and come out. They were so seized. And it was a 2014 that had lived, in Virginia all its life. So it's not like it was an up north truck or 20 years old. Um, so I suspect that's going to be a major issue with the 200 series is those adjuster valves freezing up, and you've got to be able to open them to do springs and shocks. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes in the future. I probably did. I couldn't remember if we had done suspension work on yours, but yeah, if we've put spacers in, then we've had the valves open because you've got a yeah, you fluid film would probably help, and it's dumb because they put the adjuster valves right next to the muffler. I'm not sure what they were thinking. But yeah, because you've got to open the adjuster valves 3 turns before you lift the truck to start working on it, and then when you're done and you've leveled it back on the ground, you close them so that everything settles back out. I can't imagine how bad your truck smells in the summer with fluid film all day, every day. I hate the smell of fluid film. It works great, but I hate the smell of it. Trying to think if I've read anything about people putting airbags in a 200. And I haven't come across anything yet. Of course, I haven't gone looking for it either. Yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine that smell burns off. It smells so bad. But it works. Your 80's probably one of the absolutely least rusty trucks that we work on. I think we should just solid axle swap your 200. Then you don't have to worry about airbags. Put it on like some 40-inch swampers, maybe some pit bulls. Ooh, 5.7 into the 80 would be fun. That is a swap I could get behind. We do have a 100 series with a rotten frame at the shop that may become a parts truck, and it's got a 4.7 and good drivetrain. I have not. I guess I have not done the LX 570 suspension conversion yet. The only 200 series suspensions I've done have been the actual cruiser version, without the air hydraulic. I haven't even seen an LX 570 to have no to know if it's hydraulic or air. And yeah, the 5.7 probably is too wide for the 80. That is a wide motor. And don't talk David into using airbags. We're solid axle swapping it. And if we're going to go through the trouble of making the 5.7 fit in the 80, you should probably just supercharge it too. I had to diagnose a Tundra with a supercharged 5.7, and the issue was it was going into limp mode at full throttle. That was a really fun job to diagnose. We've got a couple customers with supercharged 80s, and they're not fast, but they're not as slow as a normal 80, and they're a lot of fun to drive. A supercharged 100 series is fun too. I almost took out a row of mailboxes in my old neighborhood test driving one. Yeah, I think anything semi-modern is gonna feel fast compared to an 80, um, especially like a 3FE 80. Man, those are slow. Yeah, we took the 200 series. We did the suspension on last week. We had to run it over the alignment shop, and Danny drove it, and he got back and he was like, "Man, I can't believe how much more power a 200 series has." He goes, "I always forget that it's not an 80 series when I go to pull out on the highway, and it about whips my neck back." Yeah, I don't have anything that goes fast. I had an old third gen Supra way back in the day, but even by modern standards, that wasn't fast. Let's see. Our stainless steel exhaust kit for the FJ62. Install is easy. It uses all the factory hangers, bolts up to the factory manifolds, factory O2 sensors bolt into it, and it all just goes together. It's three pieces, and they've just got band clamps coupling them together. Easy install. We didn't really design it for better performance. It does have a freer flowing setup than factory, so it probably picks up a little bit, but nothing that you would probably like write home about. We did them more just because you couldn't get the parts anymore. Part-time kits on the 80 series. I've never messed with one. I like full-time four-wheel drive. I've got it in my Subaru. So, I don't see the big advantage to part-timing them. I feel like you would lose some of the handling, but I could be completely wrong because I've never driven one. And I can imagine a 6BT and an 80 feels pretty peppy. You'll have to take my dad for a spin when he gets out to Utah next month. Yeah, I turned the boost up on my old Supra and blew the head gasket, but ARP head studs and an HKS gasket fixed that. So my exhaust bolts up to the bottom of the factory 80 series downpipe, so like where the MagnaFlow or whatever downpipe ends up. So theoretically, depending on where Joey's hooks up to the rest of the exhaust, it should match up. We've talked back and forth a couple of times over like email and chat, but nothing super firm has come out. And I don't have a favorite area body shop. There's only one guy down here that I trust now. It's Dallas's Restorations. He does excellent work, but I think he's booked out further than we are. He's probably 6 months to a year out right now. But yeah, I really like Dallas's work. How hard is it to replace the valve cover gaskets on a 100 series? So theoretically, it's not hard to replace the valve cover gaskets on a 100 series. Passenger side doesn't have much in the way other than that filter resonator. The driver side just has a bunch of emission hoses and stuff over it, but that all moves out of the way pretty easy. The hard part about replacing valve cover gaskets on a 100 series is that it seems every time we do one of the valve cover bolts breaks, and they always break off flush in the head. Now, it doesn't matter if we soak them. It doesn't matter how easy we are taking them out. It seems like every time one of them breaks. So every time you're dealing with drilling out or welding out a broken bolt, which sucks. But other than that, if you get lucky and you don't have a bolt break, then they're not that bad to do at all. And yeah, I guess I can see the point of part-time with the 8-inch. Although I've got 80 series axles in my 4Runner with dual cases, 470s in the back case and 529s in the diffs. And I've flogged on it quite a bit, and they've held up. But I'm also only running a 4-cylinder. So while I have torque, I can't spin it up that fast. Yes, with a 22 RE. So yeah, not a whole lot of power coming out, but once you get through all that torque multiplication, it's got a pretty good bit of torque. By the time you get to the drive flanges. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I hadn't thought about going part time as a save the front axle from exploding measure. Most of the time, people bring it up to me. They're bringing it up for gas mileage, uh, and I can't see making up in gas mileage savings enough to pay for all the parts and the labor to do it. I have absolutely no plans of getting into the conversion business. Um, we we're much more productive, when we're doing day to day, repairs, suspension, timing belts, head gaskets, stuff like that. The last few weeks, I've been building the bumper, and I've had a couple of stainless exhaust kits to build, and it has just destroyed our productivity since Danny's the only one putting out day to day work while I do the custom stuff. So adding engine conversions in, I think, would just kill our productivity even further. Although we're doing a 3FE into a 40, but we have the whole FJ62 donor. So I've got all the wiring harness, I've got all the fuel injection, I've got everything factory to bolt back in with it. If I got more, if I had more guys to do the day-to-day repairs in the shop, yeah, and it is a conversion, and so I like to do oddball stuff every now and then. So we do stuff like that. I just can't do it as often as I'd like because it pulls me out of the day-to-day routine, and I get sidetracked on doing cool things. If I can, when we move the shop, or when we move into the other half of the shop and get bigger, and I can theoretically hire another production person, that would free me up to do more custom, like bumpers and exhaust and conversions. All the oddball stuff that's fun. And that's the goal. We just aren't quite there yet. And John Dean, thanks for the thanks. I enjoy doing them. It's fun. And, if I wasn't doing this, I would just be hanging out waiting for my wife to get off work on Tuesday nights. So they're fun. It's not time yet. I don't think we would ever do like American engine conversions. I'm still pretty much of the mindset that you get a Toyota for Toyota drivetrain, so keep a Toyota drivetrain. At least that's the way I see it. We use FIPG versus Permatex silicone versus Loctite 518. On any sealer gaskets where the factory manual calls for it, we use the factory form-in-place gasket, the FIPG. We keep we keep both flavors of black and the orange for the drivetrain parts in stock. For paper gaskets on drivetrain rebuilds, I put a thin coat of 518 on both sides of the gasket just to get a bit more sealing potential. So yeah, form-in-place gasket maker where the manual calls for it, and 518 on the paper gaskets is our general rule of thumb. The only Permatex that I've ever had good luck with is the Right Stuff that comes in the Easy Cheese can or the caulk gun cartridge. I used to use that quite a bit. But now, I mean, we can get the actual factory Toyota stuff so easily. I feel like that's what Toyota spec, so that's what I'm going to use. And, it seems to last forever. At least I think it's 518 that we use. It's the anaerobic sealant. And I think that's 518. The the magic dial to send power and ground to the relevant pins, so you can utilize that the dash lockers. The actual wiring didn't take that long at all. I bought like a relay panel and relay and fuse panel and did all my wiring internal to that, so I could just plug the Harops in and then plug into the factory pinning in the kick panel. Like, to actually build the harness, it took me maybe half an hour. It took me probably an hour of head scratching, looking at the factory wiring diagram, the Harrop diagram, and there was a guy on I Hate Mud that marked up a factory diagram to use the multiple relays. So yeah, to do it again, I could probably do it in like a half hour, 45 minutes. It took me probably 2 hours the first time. Headers and exhaust manifolds. I always use studs. That's what the factory used. So that's what I use. And I think the main reason they use studs is so that the turning force of tightening the fastener isn't in the aluminum head. It's, you snug you snug the stud into the aluminum head, and then you tighten the nut up on the stud. So all the friction of the tightening torque is on the stud and not twisting in the head to pull threads. And whenever we do headers or manifolds, especially on the 100 series, we always buy new studs and new nuts. It just doesn't seem worth it to put the old stuff back on and get leaks again. Yeah, the thing that took me the longest, and this is going to sound really stupid on the locker wiring, the pictures the guy has on Mud must be a foreign truck, and it shows the locker ECU on his being on what would be our driver's side. And we looked and looked and looked for the harness in there, because I was like, that's weird. I don't know why the harness would be over here. And it took me forever to realize that the truck was backwards and I needed to be looking in the passenger side kick panel. I felt really dumb after that one. Yeah, it was even like the old 2F. It's mostly studs, but it's bolts at the two extreme ends. So I'm not sure why. But yeah, I always use studs. Front and rear bumpers on 62s. I haven't kept up with the bumper market. There's a guy on Mud 4 Crawler maybe that's doing DIY kits for him. Or who was I just saw do new ones? I think Costa's doing them and Trail Tailor, but I haven't really been keeping up. I prefer paper manuals. I like the tactile feeling of having the manual open in my hands. All the new stuff that we have in the shop software is all PDF, and I print them so I can have them in my hands. And it's the same, like if I'm reading a book that's just like a book I'm reading for pleasure, I love reading on my Kindle. If it's a book like I'm trying to learn something, like, how to, do better photography or how to, edit videos, those I like in a paper manual. I like to be able to like flip to the page I want and do bookmarks that way. So yeah, I guess it depends on what I'm doing. Normal reading, I like a Kindle. Things I'm learning from, I work much better out of a paper manual, a hard copy. And for all the old stuff like the 2F, we've got the hard copy manuals at the shop. Yeah, I never thought that I would like to read on the Kindle, but the tendonitis is bad enough in my hands that laying in bed at night, I can't hold a book anymore. It like kills my hand to hold it. Where the Kindle, you can just kind of balance it there, and it's light and thin, and has the fancy little light to read from. So yeah, I'm totally Kindle that way. I don't know on your charging issue with the 24 volt. I would assume voltage regulator or a massive amount of resistance in the battery cable, like the charge, like something between the battery cable and the battery, or the battery and the alternator. So I've never worked on the electrical series or the electrical system on a BJ42 that's 24 volt. I do, however, have a brand new BJ42 alternator at the shop to install later this week. And I have to rewire it because somebody previously butchered the wiring. So I'll pay attention to see if anything weird pops up. Because yeah, we just don't see the 24 volt stuff that much. But I'll keep an eye out for anything that could be a potential pitfall. But I would guess if you're consistently not making enough voltage, I would look somewhere for for a lot of resistance. And I would almost think that if it were creating enough resistance that was that you were dropping that much voltage, you'd be able to feel it as a warm connection. And it's the one I'm installing is a 24 volt. It's the 24 volt alternator. It's got the vacuum pump built into the back. It's on a diesel truck. Which, BJ. Yeah, it's been a long day. I'm pretty sure his is 24 volt. I could be wrong, though. Yeah, if I think of it, I will shoot a video. We'll actually get to try out the new microphone. Our or audio recorder died a violent death last week because it kept cutting out, and I kept getting videos with like 3 minutes of audio missing all over the place. So we've got a new microphone set up to test drive. So I will try to shoot a video when we put that alternator in. This one, you know what, it may be 12 volt because I think it's been converted to like a Chevy one wire because the mounting brackets and all that have been butchered, and it doesn't currently have the vacuum pump installed. it's got like some windshield washer looking pumps for vacuum pumps that don't work. So we're putting the factory back in. So yeah, it may be 12 volt. But either way, I'll do a video when we put it in, and I'll try to do things to go over while we're at it. I guess I should do more electrical videos. We don't get a lot, we don't get a ton of electrical diagnostics through the shop for me to shoot videos on. We've got, all the crazy diagnostic stuff from when I was doing the hybrids, but we don't ever get to play with it anymore. There's a guy in Canada with a YouTube channel. It's like for low life IO or something like that. He does a bunch of electrical troubleshooting videos on diesel cruisers. I don't know if he has one on low voltage, though. And this is the guy that does a bunch of the electrical cruiser videos. Although I haven't watched a ton of them to actually know if they're good or not. I've watched some of his other videos, but I haven't watched the electrical. And I like his other videos. Preferred 80 series suspension setup. It kind of depends on what you're looking to do with it. For weekend wheeling, daily driving, Old Man Emu is the tried and true. They're like the gold standard. We've done a couple of the Icon Slinky. I forget what it's actually called. It's the one Endless Horizons is bringing in, the Slinky setup for the 80s. Those are really nice. But I don't know how they hold up. We haven't had any on long term to know anything other than initial impressions, but I like the way those ride and drive. We just did a Tough Dog on a 200 series last week, and I really liked the way that rode. Before that, we'd only done Icon on the 200, and those rode really nice. But the Tough Dog held its own. I liked the feel of it. So I would assume the Tough Dog also feels good on an 80 series, but I haven't actually driven one to know for sure. So yeah, the vast majority of what we do on the 80 is the Old Man Emu, with a smattering of Slinky thrown in there. Yeah, the Slinkies are super nice. I need to get an 80 series just so I can get a slinky suspension for it and have something to wheel, since the Forerunner I don't think is gonna wheel anytime soon. So I guess technically we do make bumpers. I've done a couple of 40 series bumpers, and I'm working on an 80 series one right now. But it's not something we do a lot of. It's like I was talking about earlier. It takes me out of production to do the custom fab work, which kills cash flow through the shop. So it's not something we do often, but I do enjoy doing it. So I slide them in every now and then. But yeah, I haven't built one for a 60 series. See, I've been married 9 years. It's probably been 14 or 15 years since I built one for 60 series. Um, yeah, and yeah, I need a slinky setup. And yeah, just keep me posted on the exhaust system. I turned everything to like back ordered out of stock on the website just because I didn't want somebody to order one without emailing us first, because we're running so far behind with the day-to-day work. I'm not quite sure where I would squeeze in building an exhaust right now. Uh, so it's a longer lead time than normal to build one. It would probably take me probably a month to get one worked into the schedule. Uh, but yeah, just let me know, because we can totally work an exhaust into the flow. It'll take me longer than normal to get to it. And even though it says they're out of stock and not available on the website, yes, technically we are still building them. Just I'm running behind on them right now. But I can build the FJ62 is a lot faster build than the 80 series. And I'm not sure if we're asking me about Kevin at Endless Horizon. I have not ordered a Slinky kit directly. Both the ones we've installed uh, have been ones that customers bought to put on the trucks themselves and then ended up not being able to get them. And I believe one of them came from Redline when they were still doing it, and the other one came from Endless Horizon. The most recent one was Endless Horizon. Food. I didn't realize Endless Horizon was in Louisiana. For some reason, I was thinking they were in the Midwest. I need to keep better track of these things. And if you guys don't mind, I'm going to bounce off of here so I can get dinner for the dogs and get started cooking our dinner. But yeah, if you haven't already, please subscribe below, hit the notification button for new videos. And if you really dig what we're doing, check out the Patreon site down in the description below. And yeah, I'll catch you guys next week. And Morgan, don't let my dad do things stupid when he's out in Utah with you guys next month. Yeah, that seems like way too long of a drive. Anyway, I'm bouncing off of here. I will catch you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.